Well, the time has come to write your third writing project, what I'm simply calling now the essay. I'm not sure exactly what to call it except for the essay. It is the first thing you're going to write this semester that actually resembles what you know as an essay, right, as opposed to the annotated bibliography or the literature review. Um, it is essentially an argumentative essay, at least in so much as you must provide a thesis statement and then you must provide a logical organization and evidence in support of that thesis statement. I do not want you to make the mistake of believing this is a persuasive essay. It is not a persuasive essay in the traditional sense, and that you are not attempting to sway your audience to your side. You're simply presenting your position and supporting evidence for that position, but not necessarily with the purpose in mind to sway an audience. It's possible that you'll choose to write a more persuasive style essay, but that's entirely up to you. And of course, if you do that, then you'll need to make sure your evidence and your structure, your approach to the paper, the tone of the paper are all persuasive. So a persuasive essay, for example, might be if you're writing about extraterrestrial life and you want to write an argument uh, suggesting that extraterrestrial life does exist, and you're trying to be persuasive in that. So you're trying to turn an audience that doesn't believe in extraterrestrial life to your side. And that would be persuasive. But that's not the kind of thing that you have to do. So someone writing a paper on extraterrestrial life might choose instead to write an argument about a specific way of thinking about extraterrestrial life, or a particular way of construing evidence of extraterrestrial life, or even a particular way of defining extraterrestrial life. Any of those would be suitable topics that would be argumentative. You would have to take a position, and you would have to present logically organized evidence, but there's no persuasion involved. The project may take more of an analytic turn for some of you, so I hesitate to call it an analysis essay because we've all done analysis with the literature review, and some of you will do a more traditional sort of analysis essay now, particularly if you're dealing with a specific narrative. So if you're doing Cinderella, for example, you may choose to analyze a particular version of the text, or you may choose to analyze a particular set of texts. So you want to look at maybe the progression of film Cinderellas from the 1950s through present day. What's changed about those? There's any number of things that you might choose to do there. You might choose to write an argument about a certain way of reading Cinderella. So maybe you found feminist readings of Cinderella productive and interesting, and so you would side with the feminists and then present that argument. Or maybe there are themes that you feel are inappropriate for a certain audience and you want to argue that. That might be somewhat more persuasive. So there's a lot of different approaches. That's why I'm trying not to call it anything too specific, just the essay. So what you want to make sure, of course, is that you meet the length requirements. You want to make sure that you have everything documented properly, have your works cited page attached, and that everything is logically organized. So this is why the first step is to go through that worksheet, create a thesis statement and an outline, at least a very basic outline, so that we know you have a clear thesis where you're taking a position and you have supportable sort of discussion points. And then you want to organize those in whatever sequence seems best to you, building towards a conclusion. And so in the process of doing that, you have to use at least 3 of your secondary sources and at least 2 of your primary sources. If you're not happy with the sources you have, of course, you're free to go out and find new sources. And you want to make sure all the documentation is correct. That's especially a concern with our primary sources, which, because they come from so many different places, particularly from the internet, the documentation on those was not as direct and straightforward as maybe the secondary sources. You're free to use many more sources than that if you want to. I would say don't go bonkers. Okay, you still want to make sure at least 70 or 80% of what you type in the paper is yours. So you don't want to oversaturate with quotes. Okay, but make sure you're using the minimum number of sources. Make sure you've got all that stuff on your Works Cited page. Make sure everything is organized correctly, and of course, make sure you edit well. This is going to go pretty quickly, so I'm hoping everybody has a good idea of what they want to talk about right now, and you've already got all the research, ideally, so you shouldn't have to do any more research. So now you simply formulate a thesis, put the essay together, and you should be on your way. So I look forward to seeing those projects.